give the family a chance to kind of come in real quick and get notified. It's a little Yada Yada 7, Psalms 121 in Hebrew. We're going through a canyon right now. We're coming out right now, so we'll be all right right now. I'm going to park in a minute. Just giving the family a chance to kind of get notified and come on in. Have an opportunity to discuss some things, spend some time together, get our day started off correctly. The family coming together. It's been a couple days. Gave people a chance to kind of old videos, study, thank the Most High for another beautiful day, another beautiful opportunity to learn about Him and to get closer to Him. Thank you to my moderators. Appreciate you. Let's play a little bit of that here while I get to this spot again. Let's play this again a little bit. Find a quick place to park here real quick. here at the park.
Yahweh shall preserve thee from all evil. He shall preserve thy soul. Yahweh shall preserve thy going out and thy coming in from this time forth and even forevermore. Amen.
Trying to find a place to turn around here real quick. I already have close to 200 people here. All praises to the Most High. Okay. Turn off the truck here real quick. All right. We're gonna go outside. A little field trip with the family here real quick. Trying to get my car. My door ripped off here. And I can hear the ocean here. You guys can see. Beautiful background right here. You know, California's a beautiful place. Got a lot of issues, you know, but it is an absolutely beautiful place to live. You got so much, like so many different places to visit. You know, you got the mountains real close. You got the beach real close. You know, everything in between. You know, let's see the ocean. There you go. How you doing?
Good, how are you?
Good. So yeah, so there. And let's see. There you go. Could take a little Better look here. There you go. Don't need my face in it. It is very expensive, but you know what? Everybody talks about the earthquake. There are a lot of families in the Midwest. That's where I was born, you know. Um, but I'll deal with earthquakes over tornadoes any day. We don't have, we don't have that many earthquakes, but you do have tornadoes all the time. Very calm, very beautiful. Yeah, but earthquakes aren't. If it ever makes, I think they tell people that to keep people out of California. Because I mean, I got all my family members. I would never live out there. What about them earthquakes? I was like, man, you live with all this horrible weather back here, and you complain about some earthquakes. But yeah, it is hella expensive to live here. Like once you leave, I've always heard that all the time. Like once you leave California, it's so difficult to come back because it's so expensive to live here. Like I said, that is very true. But the weather here is amazing compared to you know other places. That's why it is so expensive. Yep, got family in Sacramento too. Got a lot of family all over the place. So we're talking about being stagnant and how this society really is all about keeping us stagnant, you know? And it's when you start to like get into this truth and you think like everyone, you get the Bible and you get that understanding out of the Bible, everything tries to get you to stop and be comfortable where you're at. You know, Everyone's always talking about trying to get you to be comfortable where you're at. And, it's like your traditions. The Most High said he's going to give us back our traditions, right? And do you really think that if the Most High has a chosen people and he's blessed us with absolutely everything, then you could somehow fit all of our traditions in one book? Do you really think that all of our traditions and everything about us would be written in just one book? Now, when I'm going to show you guys some information, these other books talk about these great libraries. The Library of Alexandria and in Egypt, and all these other great libraries that were even before these other great libraries the Greeks, supposedly came up with, but we already know they got this information from us. Do you really think that somehow all of our information can be condensed into one book when they had huge libraries that all their books couldn't fit into one building? I want to say one building had at least 400,000 volumes of information, and then they had so many books in Alexandria that they had to build another building. I think that had another 300,000 volumes, right? A library in Timbuktu, exactly. Now, just think about that. You talk about 700,000 volumes of information. So, if you're getting 700,000 volumes of information, and that's just what they're admitting to in some of these books, right? How in the hell are you gonna condense everything that we knew into one book? I know my brother the 12, he's into a lot of other books as well. The ones over the Sumerian texts and everything else, and there's even more information going on there, right? So, yes, I say read the Bible, learn the Bible, because the Bible will help us to get context of many things. The Bible has been absolutely pivotal in teaching me who we are as a people, right? They give us context, okay, of who the Most High is speaking to, right? The Most High he had a chosen people, set apart people back then, and he has one now. Things do not change. That's why it talks about how there's nothing new under the sun. Things do not change, right? So yeah, they say that Mike see they say they burned a lot of them. Do you really believe that Esau really burned a lot of them? Have you seen him have book burnings? You might see a video here of them burning books from decades ago, but why? I don't believe that they burned the books. They just say that they burned the books, but I don't believe that whatsoever. If See, the whole world knows that knowledge is power. The whole world is aware that knowledge is power, right? So if the world knows that knowledge is power, and they were not, see, we have all this esoteric information and understanding, right? So they weren't allowed to get our books. They weren't allowed to have our records. So why, when the Most High gave them an opportunity to finally get a hold of our books, why exactly would they burn them? You see what I'm saying? Why would they burn them? Does that make absolutely any sense? Absolutely not. It makes no sense whatsoever. Now, they'll say that they burned them. You know why they say that they burned these books? To cut you off from your knowledge. To cut you off. Right? Exactly. Maybe they burned some of the copies, but they kept the originals. Exactly. They burned certain people's collections. Yeah. Well, you know what I'm going to tell you this also, but what they did was this. It was what was it my brother said that? Jeremiah dream. You're right about the burning of certain people's collections, because certain people had huge collections of books. But what they would do, like, I'm going to do videos on this. I'm going to start bringing some information out, is that if you came into certain areas and people were traveling with their books, they were traveling with their books. So they would come in and confiscate your books. And then they would copy the books that you had, and then they would give you a copy and keep the originals. You see what I'm saying? They would copy your originals, give you back a copy. They would pay them for it. They would give them a lot of money or whatever else for these books. But this is how they grew their library. So they would take it, because they had professional transcribers who would just sit there and copy these books. That was their jobs, right? And they will copy these books. And now, hold on, another thing to think about is this. They make it sound like they barely came up with printing presses and stuff like that. You don't think we already had all that? If there's nothing new under the sun, and we had all these books, you don't think that we had printing presses back then? Exactly. Ancient Smithsonian, exactly. Right there, brother, exactly. So you don't think that we already had machines that would copy these books already, make copies? Of course we did. You see what I'm saying? So our people are geniuses. So, the Most High gave us an opportunity. He taught us, he gave us all this information, understanding a long time ago. There's nothing new under the sun. But see, when they say they burned all these books, that disconnects you from this heritage. That disconnects you from all these books being yours. Because then they can say, oh, we burned all these books. But then look at what we created. Look at the information that we came up with. You see what I'm saying? They removed the book that removed us from being the owners of this information. You see what I'm saying? Then they could say, oh, we burned all their books because they were full of heretical information, and it was just like devil worship. So we just burned everything. But now look at us. Now we created the printing press. Now we created the cotton gin. Now we created, math. We created science. See, they disconnected us from being the originators of all that. Okay? And they made it so then if they say they burned all the books, then there was no information before them. Everything was erased. And now all of a sudden they're the ones that supposedly came up with all this. Stop you from searching, exactly. Right, DSB? This is the videos out there showing Esau painting white people while copying the drawings from black paintings. Of course. Of course. Jeremiah Dynasty, I didn't hear that. Really, it says that, huh? Yoda burned the ancient Jedi books in Star Wars and said that that which is in the books are already within the Last Jedi. I agree with that. I believe that. I don't remember that part. I've watched Star Wars a lot. Which one was that? If you can, if you remember, can you put that in the chat? You see what I'm saying? Because they put all this information in the movies. You know what I'm saying? They put all that information in there. So like I said, there's nothing new under the sun. So yeah, so definitely. I believe that they definitely did that as well. Got many people out here enjoying the beautiful weather right here. First thing, in the morning. First thing as they rise up. Gonna be here for a little while, family. So we got some time. Unless people just got here right now. Thank the Most High that you're able to kind of come in here real fast. The so-called Mexicans are the tribe of Iscar. Growing up in Catholicism, I always find it weird that Jesus was depicted as a white, long-haired, hippie, blue-eyed hippie. Well, what's funny is this, okay? When you bring up the fact that, yeah, Jesus wasn't white, everyone pretty much agrees. Oh, yeah, well, we know that, yeah, we know he wasn't white. But then I want to go off into, well, he was olive colored. Okay, if you've been content with the lie the whole time, if you've been content with worshiping white Jesus when you knew he wasn't white, then what makes you think that you get to go ahead and continue with the narrative, or continue to be the one who dictates what the narrative is? You see what I'm saying? So you knew he wasn't white, but you still went to church. You still, had everybody else going to church with you. You were still out here evangelizing and everything else. Once people call you out on the BS about him not being white, then all of a sudden you're like, well, okay, well, yeah, you got us on that lie. So let's just go to the next lie. You see what I'm saying? He wasn't green, so olives are green and black. So if you're going to say he's olive, so you're trying to say the truth, but still not say the truth. You see what I'm saying? Rise of the Beast. I haven't seen that one yet. If you haven't seen Transformers Rise of the Beast, you got to see it. It has some gem portals. And oh yeah, we'll definitely check that one out, because, like I said, that's what the Bible has done. The Bible has was like a key to open up all this other understanding. You see what I'm saying? And I had mentioned something about camps in the last video. Now look, I'm not downing camps, because that was a great comment that was just put up, and it was talking about how, the camps, have definitely helped her and her coming into this truth and the information that they gave. I'm not doubting that whatsoever. I totally agree. I came into this truth watching camp videos, memorizing information from camp videos on YouTube and everything else. Did that for years. I've never said that they are not important. Okay, I said everyone has their use. Everyone has their purpose, and their purpose definitely is to be like a gateway and opening up avenues for us to come into this truth. Definitely, I agree with that. I'm not saying, and I never said anything negative about them at all. You don't hear me, sitting here downing people or whatever else, or other groups or things like that. Okay, because that's not what I do. Now, what I did say was that when they say things like, we're the only ones with 100% truth and stuff like that, then I have an issue. I said, because that there is a way to keep us stagnant as a people. If you think that you have 100% of the truth, then there's no way that you're going to grow, because you're only stuck in one book, and you're only stuck regurgitating the same information over and over again. You see what I'm saying? We all play our part. Exactly, main banks. I totally agree. Everyone plays their part. I'm not saying anyone is more important than the other or whatever else. I just encourage people to continue to grow. You see what I'm saying? That's what I'm saying. I don't sit here and I don't have time to be sitting here arguing and going back and forth with people. over things. You see what I'm saying? I got my own things I'm trying to take care of. And so that was when I just kind of hear people like saying things like, well, only the camps are doing the work, and only if you're going out to street corners and doing this, that. Those are the only ones that are doing the work because the Bible says so. Now you've kind of said, okay, that the only information that we have is in the Bible, and that we can't get information from anywhere else. You see what I'm saying? That's what I was saying. Hey, Gracie and your sister Diddy, thank you for everything that you do and all the information that you send me. Rosie Jones, I guess, so much information from those two sisters and a lot of other brothers and sisters that send me a lot of things. Sister Wanda sends me a lot of great information. A lot of the moderators, Ancient Garden, all of you guys, thank you guys so much. I know I'm missing people because I have people that send me a lot of things. My email is, starting to get a little busier over here now. My email is tribeofjudah0@gmail.com. If you want to send me information, please do. I'm trying to check it more often, and trying to get more. I'm definitely going to start doing more stuff on my Patreon page as well. I'll start posting more information and doing some things over there also. I finally got to have some time to be able to get into that as well. Certain things that I'm not going to be talking about here on YouTube, but I will be talking about over there. And things I can share. Like I said, we got places where you can't share everything. You got to make it a little bit more difficult for some people to find some of this information. I said because it's not for everyone. Most High does that to us, right? Does he not hide information? And it's up to us, as a people to search things out, correct? So that's like really important that people search things out on their own, and don't get stagnant. And that's it. I totally agree. Like, technology is how this information gets to the four corners. Not gonna get to the four corners standing on, a couple of street corners. So we're all using, technology in order to be used to spread this information. You see, and you got to understand that the enemy does not want you to spread this information. The enemy does not want you to spread this information. So therefore, they're going to make it very, very, they want you to only talk to a limited group of people. You know what I'm saying? I mean, if you haven't noticed, that's exactly what they want you to do. They don't want you out here they don't want you to get big, or they don't want you to have a wide range where you can talk to many different people. They don't want that. They want you only pretty much talking to your little group of 5 or 10 people, and you just regurgitating things back and forth with each other, and that's good enough. They don't want you to talk to the Gentiles. They don't want this. Remember, what do they always tell us, right? This message is not for the Gentiles. It's only for the Israelites. And you Gentiles, all you guys have for you is slavery, and that's it. And I'm like, okay, well, like I said, I don't dictate who's getting what, and how people are being used. I said, so that's not my job. And not only that, I don't know who in the hell is a Gentile and who's an Israelite just by looking at them. You see what I'm saying? Because people will be like, especially, you always crack up with well, hold on. You say that you're Mexican. Well, where was your father from? Where was your father from? My father was born in Mexico. Well, okay, well, you're an Israelite. Okay, well, hold on, bruh. I really don't think that just because you're one generation, your father was from a certain place, necessarily dictates that you're an Israelite, because his great grandfather could have came from Spain, right? So you can't do that. You know what I'm saying? They did. So you can't, like, but that's how they kind of like oversimplify things. I mean, we've all seen that before when they would talk to people. Oh, you're Irish? Oh, yeah, you're from Ireland. Oh, I can tell you're one of us. You're one of us for sure. I'm like, what? I was like, come on now, man. I really don't think it's really that simple. I said the Most High is going to tell you who people are, and by their actions and by their ability to actually absorb this word. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I believe, yes, Sister Marcella, I think many people are waking up. They're waking up to the reality that this reality is a bunch of BS. But see, this is where that stagnation comes in. And I've seen this even with people that are in religions. You know, they get into a religion, they've been in it their whole life, and then all of a sudden they come across some information, like, you know, that kind of rocks their world, right? Then all of a sudden they start to do a little, if the spirit's in them and they're not stuck on being stagnant, they'll start to search, and they'll get on social media, and the Most High will put, you know, the right information, you know, in your hands. He'll put it right in front of you. So you start looking for things, and how many times have we all been like, man, I was just thinking about this, and all of a sudden this just pops up. I was just doing a little bit of research, and then, you know, I found your video. I was just doing a little bit of information, and this information confirmed this. You see what I'm saying? So if you show the Most High that you want the truth, He will put that truth in front of you. It's not like it takes, you know, a whole lot of effort. The Most High wants you to come back to Him. So therefore, He will give you that information, right? Now, if you don't have that spirit in you and you are happy being stagnant, then, yeah, I like that name there, Thekla. Then He will also leave you in the dust. He will also leave you there where you're at as well. So like I said, it's a two-lane road. It's like, hey, if you want this, the Most High will make a way for you to get this information. If you don't want it and you're happy being stagnant, He will give you confirmation to stay stagnant and stay where you are. Yes, Sister Zidia, exactly. He will do that, especially now. If you ask, you can get it straight away. I mean, I get confirmations like real quick. You know, when you have your mind and spirit opened to knowledge and understanding, He will give it to you. He will give it to you. You know, and that is absolutely beautiful. I say, you know, that's so. Like I said, when I was talking about stagnant, that's if you're content with not wanting to study, that's what people are put in certain positions. If you're content with not wanting to study, you know, and not wanting really to know, there's got to be a place and a people that's set up to keep you there. You see what I'm saying? There's got to have to. Like the Incredible Hulk, you're right, olive colored. So, you know, so you just think of it like, hey, everyone has their part to play. Your part might be just to stay in the Bible and keep people there that just want to be in the Bible. And like I said, I don't down anyone that does that as well. I'm like, hey, you guys are performing a great work by opening up, a gateway. We're not gatekeepers, and open up the gateway in order to keep people. Get people to come into this truth and study and learn. You know, I said, but there's a whole lot more information than just that. I'm looking to read some comments here. The scales over the eyes of veils. I love the Holy Spirit is the answer to truth. Thank you for keeping it real, Brother Judah. Thank you. Thank you, Jacqueline. But I appreciate you, you know. Right, DSB, the Gentiles really think just because the Most High turns His face from us that He didn't see what they were doing down here, right? Exactly. And see now it's amazing. It's absolutely beautiful to see how the Father is working, and like I said, and giving knowledge and understanding. And the thing, you know, everyone is on their own personal journey, you know. I just encourage people to read and study for themselves, you know. And you can see when people are being used to keep people from studying too. You know, I can see that too from other groups, and not necessarily always just camps. It can also be individuals. When you start to get into certain tough topics and subject matter, they pull out the whole magic and witchcraft, and you know these one word one word attacks that will keep the people who are not ready for this information or not called this information away. You know, I like that, Beverly Harold. We were on punishment, not disowned. Very true. We were on punishment and not disowned. So true. You know, these trigger words, exactly, Ancient Gardener, I mean, I got attacked many times by reading certain information, certain books, and whatever else. And you know what? Many times the Most High would give me that information, not necessarily for me to delve into these topics, but it was also to keep people away. It was also to keep people stagnant or where they're at. You see what I'm saying? Because eventually Most High was going to take me somewhere that many other people weren't going to be able to go. You know? Very true, Romney Black. Seek the Most High, and you will be on a never-ending journey. Exactly. And is that like not what we want? Do we not want? I mean, I love learning, and I love learning something new. Anthony Kovelsfiller and Waterboy's mama wasn't doing any lying. Foosball is still the devil. Oh my goodness, right? Right? You know, so yeah, man, I said it's just in like the physical. I was talking about, physical stagnation as well. Like thinking that, there aren't natural ways to improve our health. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, I know sometimes you get really, really sick and you have to use certain kinds of medicines and things like that. But you can also help with aiding your body by doing physical activity. You know what I'm saying? I don't think that we as a people were made to be working 8, 10, 12 hours a day, you know, in an office building, in a little cubicle and things like that. Our body needs to be, your body is amazing. It's absolutely amazing. Like if you push it, it will always want to do more, you know. Yusef Israel, I love that movie, Never Ending Story. I used to watch that movie all the time. Luck Dragon and all the little things that they would tell you in it. I used to watch that one. Like I said, that's the beautiful thing about being in this truth, because you start to realize that there's so many people out here that have been on the same journey. Exactly. Outside, yes, but not locked away from those. Exactly. And I think a lot of that is set up on purpose. Keeping us, inside. Keeping us in little cubicles. Making us breathe the same stagnant air all the time. Working you to death, where then you get complacent when you do have some time finally. Studying is the last thing you're going to want to do. That's why they only give you 1 hour of religion a week that's required. So you go to church on Sunday for about an hour, and you've done your service for God, right? You've done all your service for God in that 1 hour of the week. When you went and heard pastor read you one verse, you imagine like when you go to these churches and you just listen, they read you one verse, and they break that one verse down for 45 minutes. Play you some music, get you in the right frame of mind. Same old stuff, right? But you're not really learning. That's why, I have so many people that I know that have gone to church their whole lives, thought they were doing the right thing, and you start just asking them basic questions. Sunday sound bites. You just start asking them basic questions, and they have no clue. You start asking them just basic questions about the Bible and biblical stories, and they have absolutely no clue. So, yeah, like I said, churches are set up to keep you stagnant. Everything that doesn't encourage you to grow is nothing but a way to keep you stagnant, They're definitely playing our roles, right? And because then once you start to not become stagnant, you start to actually search, the Most High comes, sends that Holy Spirit to you, and then all of a sudden, has you questioning absolutely everything. That's so true, right? I used to feel worse after I came out of the church. Before I went in, haven't been to a church in almost 20 years. Yep, I haven't been to church. I will sometimes, today I might go into a mission. Because you know why? I go into missions to look for things. You know what I'm saying? Like I go into different missions in order to look for stuff. You know, I don't go to listen to their BS history and the BS lies they. Well, I listen to that too because that there also tells you something. You know what I'm saying? But see, we can see through all that. You can see through all those different lies now that they're telling you, and then it just gets more confirmation of what the Most High is showing us. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like you look at it as like you're like a secret agent going in there and you're looking for clues and looking for information. You know, what books are they going to have laying around? You know, what kind of books are, what like that whole thing was, where's Waldo? What doesn't fit here in this scenario, right? Quick. I'm sure most of us have not been into a church in a very long time, but if you do happen to go into a church because, you have to go for something or, the Most High has you go in there for something, but you go in there and you're looking for stuff. When I had to go, one of my in-laws was getting married, and it was in a church. It was years ago, and I was into this truth. Finally, I was getting deeper and deeper into this truth, and I went in and I started seeing like all of these so-called Illuminati symbols, etched into their glass. This is a Catholic church. They had the compass, and they had all these different things that would kind of like refer back to the builders and everything else. But then when my eyes were, I was like, if this is a church, why do they have like all these supposedly Illuminati secret society symbols etched into their glass and stuff like that? You start to see all these things, like, hold on, what the hell? Why is this here? If this is supposed to be some kind of a religious organization, and they say that all this stuff is of the devil, then why exactly do they have these things etched into like their glass and stuff like that? I like that, Rodney. But God don't like ugly. And what chapter and verse is that found? Right? And that's the whole thing. Once you start like, hey, hold on, man, where's that really in the Bible? Hey, hold on, you guys are just saying sayings and saying it's in the Bible and stuff like that, and that stuff is not in the Bible. Yeah, I do. You do definitely feel weird. You got to make sure you just say a prayer and ask for some covering when you got to go in there. Make sure our angels are with us. And that's the whole thing that you got to think of it is this like we have angels that are with us, and they're here to protect us. I mean, that's the only way that we could do what we do, is if we got some spiritual protection around us, Still waiting for that? I don't think we're going to be getting that one, huh? Not going to be getting that chapter and verse. So where that's at, right? Rabbits don't lay eggs, right? Right, the christening, yeah, it was creepy, I'm sure, right? Once the Most High blesses you with this understanding, like things that we used to do, it's like, damn, I used to do this all the time. You start to feel really weird about it, Yeah, I'm always, praying for protection, Got my black birds over here hanging out here, checking me out over here, looking around and everything else. We just start to look at everything differently. You know that nothing is on accident. So you got your birds here that keeping an eye out for you, keeping spirits away. I had put my I put my rocks out the last full moon, and what was kind of crazy was that we have a couple of dogs. One of our dogs, well, we let her go outside, and she went straight to the rocks, and she started barking at the rocks, and she never does this, Black guards work exactly right, and say thank you, The blackbirds are kind of just chilling and looking, right? Because I know that animals can see things that we can't see, they're privy to looking at the spirit world. So when my dog was like looking at the rocks that I had outside, and she started barking at them like crazy. Like she was just looking at them and staring at them and barking like all the way, like crazy. And I was telling my wife, I was like, the Book of Tupac. He's oh my goodness, Israel. Like I said, but she was barking like crazy, and I was telling my wife, I was like, it said they don't always bark at like just bad spirits. I mean, they're probably barking at just at anything that they're looking. Maybe they're just letting you know that your spirits are getting recharged, or they're watching the spirits recharging, and the inside of these rocks and stones and stuff like that. Hold on, real fast. I'm gonna put you guys back up here. I totally believe, like I said, the animals are definitely watching out for us. They're sent out here to keep an eye on us, just like, when you guys start getting into other books and information talking about the spirits living in the rocks and things like that, and you'll hear people, oh, that's witchcraft. And I'm like, dude, you know what? Like I said, just stay on your other channel. Do you over there, keep regurgitating the same things over and over again, not a problem. I said, no one asked you your opinion over here. You just do your job in keeping the ones that aren't supposed to be here away, because that's what you're being used for. That's your job, okay? Donkey didn't want to cross the bridge. Exactly, right? And started talking. The donkey started talking. I said, and how many other stories are there like that? You know what I'm saying? Like, how many other stories are there out there? I remember there's another one, I want to say, in Jasher, where it was like another animal, like almost like a wolf or something, that was talking to one of our patriarchs as well. I say thank you to the ones, who are doing their jobs and keeping the ones that are not supposed to be here away. I say, because that makes our time here much more enjoyable. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't have to deal with, oh, it's not true. That's not true. That's not right. But I'm like, well, have you studied? Have you read any of this information? No. There you go. Right? Yes. Great job, Ancient Gardener. Yes. A wolf was saying it didn't kill Joseph. Exactly. Remember that? See, and then how many other channels are you going to go and you're going to have people have that kind of a conversation? Oh yeah, I remember that. It was a wolf talking about Joseph, asking for Joseph. Exactly. How many other channels are you going to get those kinds of conversations? Yep. Chris G, they are watching if the Most High sent animals to care for our family in the Bible. Won't he look after us the same way? There is nothing new under the sun. Exactly. When you understand there's nothing new under the sun, that's when you guys start getting into these other books. They have other stories. I said, so I totally believe the two birds are still just sitting there. The two birds are still just sitting there. How often do birds just sit here and they're kind of like pecking at the wood, but just kind of just chilling and just kind of, and just hanging out and looking around? See, the Most High has sent angels that we can't see to watch after us and watch over us, things like that. But sometimes you'll see things, like animals, things like that, that'll just kind of just be hanging around, whatever else, that you can see, but they're probably doing the same kind of thing. Yes, Brenda Hill, so true. Hold on fast. Every time I run into my neighbor's dog, they sit at my feet. Yeah, I've had it happen a couple times where I did a video a couple years ago, and I was at a park, and this person's dog was just like barking like crazy, and the dog just stopped barking and walked up to me and was just staring at me, but didn't say a word. And the lady was like, "Man, that's weird. My dog never does that. My dog always barks and barks at everyone, but walked over to you and just sat there and just looked at you, and didn't say a word." I go, that's really weird. That's never happened before. I said, oh yeah, so that's the first time for everything, I guess. Right? Riffraff, keep the riffraffs out. It makes more time for our information and not spending energy debate. Exactly. Exactly. Before, you kind of look at it as a tax and things like that. For people that would say certain things about me or whatever else, but then I kind of learned like, hey, Most High has a mission for everyone. Some people need to hear what they have to say and make their own decisions. There are some people here now that I have great respect for, and I know that they have a lot of knowledge and understanding, and they would go to other people or other channels and whatever else, and they're kind of surprised because I'm like, this person's way too smart to be on that channel. This person has way too much knowledge and understanding. But sometimes, Most High has to do that to you, kind of take you away and have you go with other people and listen to what they have to say. Because I know eventually, like the Most High says, he's not going to lose a one. So the ones that, even do that, hey, we all have to go out and kind of see what it is that other people are saying and see if it resonates with your spirit. You know what I'm saying? And that's happened to all of us. That has happened to all of us. So I don't say anything. I just, okay, that's cool. I have people that would say like, hey, I'm Big Jude, I'm sorry, I can't listen to you anymore. The person that I have, it's like my pastor or whatever else has told me I can't listen to you because whatever. I said, you know what, be blessed, good luck, thank you so much for being here. But if that's what, you feel like you're being called, go ahead. And then with a couple days, this person was like, I'm so sorry that I did that. I was wrong. And, I'm like, oh, well, that's cool too. Whichever way the Most High moves you, whichever way the Most High moves you. I said, that's a beautiful, that's your path. You know what I mean? I'm not going to sit here and tell you what you should and should not do. And see, that's what churches do. Churches are, like I said, these groups in churches are always about keeping you stagnant. I'm not here for that. I'm not here to keep you stagnant and keep you, I need numbers. I need you guys all to be here at this time. And I need, I'm going to be live, 8 hours from now. Make sure you guys are all sitting here waiting for me to be, I said, I'm not like that, the Most High tells me, hey, it gives me that feeling I need to go ahead and go live, or I need to go ahead and make this video. I will go ahead and do it. All of a sudden he has me making videos in the middle of the night. Okay. That is not the optimal time for views is, releasing videos at midnight. That just shows you that I don't care about that. And that's, if that's where the Most High wants me to do it, then that's what I'll do. You know what I mean? Yeah, I know that many of you guys are not getting notified of videos or whatever else. Maybe the Most High wants you to kind of search, do a little bit of work, and instead of just falling in your lap, he wants you to come and look for things on your own. You know what I'm saying? He wants you to come and look for the videos at certain times or whatever else. You know what I'm saying? Look at some videos here. Thank you, Antoinette. Yes, all praises to the Most High. I'm feeling great. Thank the Most High. We've all gone through, we all go through our trials and tribulations. And the thing is that how do you come out on the other side? You know what I'm saying? I had, just sitting here just talking to my wife and my kids and, about a couple of things that, I've been going through for the last couple of years, and, like I said, the Most High he doesn't just, test you, but he's also testing people that are around you, because everything I went through, they went through also. They sat there and watched me, the stuff that I went through, so it affected them also. I'm looking at the Romney, but yeah, so like I said, we all go through our tests, like I said, and everything else. And it's just amazing because, like I said, as you go through these tests, you should be stronger. If the Most High blesses you to be able to come through these tests and whatever else, you should be stronger. I heard a story about, I'm not sure if it's true or not, wouldn't surprise me, about Jamie Foxx and him, being blind and being partially paralyzed. Not sure if it was true or false or whatever else. I haven't seen Jamie Foxx in a very long time, so I don't know if it's true or not. He hasn't come out to say, no, it's not, and whatever else. But he, if it's true, and he's blind from like a stroke and partially paralyzed. Like, I don't wish blindness on my worst enemy. I was blind a couple years ago for months. I had these really bad cataracts that formed like instantaneous. I went to the store with my wife. By the time I came home, within like 30 minutes, I went from being able to see to being blind. My blood sugars had shot up to ridiculous. I didn't know I was diabetic at that time. And, my cataracts were, they took away my vision. And, so I was blind for months. Couldn't read, couldn't see, couldn't do anything. And they said, there's nothing like that. Like, if you go from your whole life being able to see, being able to read, being able to study, and whatever else, as much as I wanted to, and everything else, and then all of a sudden it being taken away, and then not knowing, like, okay, am I going to get my vision back? What the hell is going on here? Am I going to be like this the rest of my life? I mean, I'm relatively young. What the, So, like I said, scary as hell. Being able, I'm very independent. I don't like to depend on anybody for anything. So then I'm, think about my wife. The thing she's having to go. She's watching me, like, I'm trying to eat. And I'm just, I'm poking at my plate, thinking there's food there, and it was just like a picture of something that was on the plate. I can't see it. So, this is like going on for months. So like I said, so I know how it is to be healthy and strong, and all of a sudden you can't do anything for yourself. So I see that kind of thing happening to Jamie Foxx, and like I said, that brother's very talented, and then all of a sudden, to possibly have everything taken away. Thank you, DSB. I appreciate those prayers, and I was just one of a few challenges and things like that, that we've been going over for the last couple of years, right? Like Capricorn, yes. And it's just, it's just wild that when you hear stories now, when you've gone through it, it's like, I don't wish that on anybody. Cause like I said, but hey, it's all tests. We all have different tests. I'm looking at that right there about the Queen Mommy. But your dad went blind. Due to high blood pressure before he passed. So grateful. Yeah. Thank you for sharing. Like I said, there's this, it's hard to think about, but you have to like go back and reassess like why you've gone through certain things and how it's, and how are you going to use that going forward? You know what I mean? Yes, definitely. Dana Marie, definitely, many of our people who need our prayers, for restored health. We got to pray for them, family. Exactly. I totally agree with you. Getting into taking more supplements and natural things. I take black seed oil daily, amongst many other things that I take daily. I know Sister Lisa Cabrera talks about, a lot of healthy things that she was, using and things like that as well. I said, so, a lot of our people are into like the health and fitness and things like that. I work out all the time, I lift weights, do a cardio, do all that stuff. But I say, that's to me, personally, that's soothing. That's like rest for me. That's like, cause it gives me my mental clarity. And I was even doing that when I was blind. I would just have my stuff in the garage, and I'd be riding my stationary bike or lifting weights or whatever else. And, apple cider vinegar, very true, Yes, you are definitely more powerful with a testimony. Very, very true, because it's one thing to tell people, yeah, I know these bad things are happening to you, but nothing ever bad has happened to me. So I can't really feel it, but I can tell you, you need to do this, you need to do that. But when you've gone through it, I said it's totally different. Thank you, Beverly. I appreciate you. Thank you. And you know what? And I thank the Most High for you. I tell people all the time, I said, people I'll come into contact with, and, I don't tell people about the channel or whatever else. It's like if the Most High wants them to know about the channel, the Most High will open up a way, or they'll hear from someone else, or they'll be on here and they'll figure it out or whatever else. But sometimes if I'm having a conversation and I could tell, like, they have some knowledge, understanding, and if the Spirit leads me to tell them about the channel, I'll tell them, hey, this is the channel. I said, what you want to do is this, okay? If you want more information, I said, when I look at the lives and then look at the comments in the lives, I said, because it's not just me. I said, there are thousands of people, okay, that are here in these lives. I don't care what numbers they put up. I said, there are many people that are here. I said, but these aren't like regular people that are in these lives, okay? I said, these people are very studious, very learned, Yeah, so you just imagine when if it says 750, even if it's only 750, 800 people in here, which is still a lot of people, these people have so much knowledge that you can talk to one person and they have a vast array of knowledge in this subject. And you talk to another one and they have vast array of knowledge in another subject. You start bringing all that information together. You have just a plethora of information. I said, these aren't regular people that you can just go and have a conversation with and then tell them the regular BS that everybody else talks about. And they're going to, and they're going to they're just going to look at you like, dude, you're an idiot. You're in the wrong channel. You need to go somewhere else. You see what I'm saying? This is not that channel. This is not the channel where you're going to come in here and go John 3:16 and think you've done something. I said, that's not the people here. I said, there's hundreds and hundreds of us in here. I said, and they're very well, versed. That's why when I crack up, people say, oh, the Bible only, or whatever else. I said, these people in this chat and people that are here on this channel, I said, okay, they know everything that you know about the Bible and more. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, when I hear people to say things like that, like, oh, everything you need is in the Bible. I was like, I said, okay, maybe the people that you associate with, that's enough. I said, but I tell people all the time, if you're going to come, go to the live, look at the chat, look at something that might interest you, go and research that information. You see what I'm saying? Go research that information that they're talking about. I said, because I don't have all the information. I said, I'm not supposed to. I said, that's not my job. I'm not my job to be a PhD in every single subject, because there's nobody, that's not possible. I said, but there are people here who have PhDs in this subject and PhDs in that subject, and they've been called to study this. Now you get 700 people, 800 people that think like that. I said, you just imagine the amount of information that's really going on in the chat. You see what I'm saying? Because we've all grown up. Most of us are probably the same demographics, same age, probably grown up looking at the same types of things. And then it's like the whole never-ending story. We could do videos on the never-ending story, and I would get hundreds or thousands of comments here because we've all watched it. We all were drawn to it, right? And we were all like, yeah, that's like a deeper meaning. And then as we got to this truth, you go back to that movie and you start to see all these things in there that I felt it, but I didn't quite understand it. But now that my eyes have been opened, now I get it. Now I see what they're trying to say. You see what I'm saying? Same thing with Star Wars and Yoda and Luke and the Jedi. I've watched that movie thousands of times, all those movies over and over again, right? Now you look at it now, it's like, oh my God, they're telling us this, they're telling us that, there's this in here, there's that in there. They've made money off all this stuff, but the information in it is just absolutely, mind-blowing, because it's telling us so much information. Video games, very true. You start looking at video games. You start looking at the stories in video games, and you start, oh my God, that's telling me this, and this is telling me that. You see what I'm saying? Like, it's now you're starting to be able to put all of this information together. This just shows you that, like, the churches might have the numbers as far as, hey, I got a congregation of 50,000. I got a congregation of 30,000. Blah 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 blah. It's okay. I'll take the 700 or 800 here over your 50,000 any day. You see what I'm saying? Because the small amount of numbers comparison to yours, yeah, but the amount of knowledge is vastly superior than the 50,000 people that go to your church and don't think at all about absolutely anything. You see what I'm saying? Like, they don't know how to read the Bible. They don't know how the Bible is a puzzle, and then you got to get pieces and put the puzzle pieces together. They refuse to read other books. So and like I said, so you're set up to keep people stagnant. The ones the Most High doesn't want, he sends to you. And your job is to, keep them there and keep them content. That's in these books, it talks about how religion is just set up to keep the vast majority, pretty much content. You know what I'm saying? And it's so true. This was happening, and this book is the one that's from the 1700s. And it just talks about how pretty much the religions have just been set up to keep the masses content and docile. That's all that it is. Nothing has changed. So you got the same thing today. What would happen if the vast majority of the world figured out that this matrix is all made up, the thing that they told you is all made up, and that none of it is true? People would lose their minds, right? They would lose their minds. So therefore, you've got to set up groups and places like that for them in order to keep them docile, so that the ones who are wanting to elevate can do so. You see what I'm saying? Like the ones that the Most High is calling to elevate, they'll have that opportunity to elevate. Hold on real quick. Okay. People are having a conversation here. And that's how it is with us. So in the churches, they set up the churches, and that keeps the vast majority of the people docile and stagnant and not learning. Okay. The ones the Most High will call out of that group will come to the camps. Well, first thing they'll do is they'll get like Most High doesn't want them to stay stagnant. The Most High wants them to grow. So they'll have that spirit of like, hold on, man, something's missing here. I go to church every Sunday. I listen to the pastor's message for years. It's getting really stagnant. It's getting really redundant. It's the same things over and over again. There's got to be more. And the Most High will, they'll start to look for things. And all of a sudden they'll be looking on social media, and something will pop up, and then they'll be like, okay, well, I'm going to look into this, and I'm going to start to do a Google search or whatever else. And then I'm going to go to YouTube, and all of a sudden the Camp Brethren shows up, and then they start to listen to them about breaking down the Bible and stuff like that. And then, okay, all right, yeah, that's true. I'm Israel. I'm an Israelite, or I'm a Gentile and I want to cleave to the Israelites. There's something more, So then they start to get the Bible and start memorizing verses, memorizing this information, memorize that information, get into this, get into that. And then maybe 432, the drop video pops up. And then all of a sudden that information starts to like resonate with them. Then maybe, Kurumeo's video starts to pop up. And then, oh, okay, well, this information really resonates with me. Okay, all right, cool. Maybe you get into Sister Lisa Cabrera's videos and start getting a different viewpoint of the news. You see what I'm saying? And then maybe they'll eventually, one of my videos will pop up, and then they'll start looking at that, and they'll start to look at that information. Okay, there's a historical aspect of it. History actually has a lot of these things have already, happened. You got to Brother Big Levi's videos, right? Or Brother Main's videos, things like that, And maybe, you want to get like a different view of of the news. You'll go to Sister Pat's videos. You see what I'm saying? So it's like how there's depending on whatever it is the Most High wants you to do, or how deep he wants you to get into this. He's the one that does all this. He's the one that, chat stop moving again, huh? I guess we're talking a little bit too much stuff, so I'm trying to actually look at your guys' your comments as well. There we go. Jehovah's Witnesses, rolled solo for over 20 years. That's a long time. Entering the truth 5 years later, solo. But yeah, exactly. Then all of a sudden, like all these different these things in the Bible that the churches don't want to touch on, start to make sense. Brother Moriel's videos as well. Very true. I hope I'm sorry if I'm missing any ones, but definitely Brother Moriel's as well. I can't get everybody because there's a lot of people who are bringing Brother Big. There's a lot of people that are bringing out information. Sometimes, camp videos will pop up, and I'll take a look at some of them for a little bit. I'm not saying, that's why I said I'd never said anything negative. Hey, Sister Lisa Cabrera, great seeing you. Shalom to you too, sister. Thank you for coming. Sometimes, like I said, I get a chance to actually see The chat sometimes, they don't let me see the chat at all. But like I said, that's the whole thing. Everybody looking for direction. So, but there's all these, these obstacles that are set up to keep you stagnant. You know, and I've got to remember the story. They say it's an East Indian story or whatever else, but it's a story about like these four brothers or three or four. I want to say three or four brothers that are going out searching for heaven. One's like the all powerful. They got these different names. One's like the all beautiful. One's like the all knowing, and there's like another brother. And so they start going on their journey, and there's like a war going on, and they call the brother that was all powerful to the war. And he's like, I'm gonna go and fight with them today, and I'll catch up and I'll chase after heaven tomorrow. So they leave that brother, and then they keep on going down, and all of a sudden, there's this beautiful woman there, and like this beautiful like princess or whatever else, and all the brothers with us the all handsome one ends up hook it up with old girl, and he's like, well, I'm gonna get married and stay here, and and then I'm going to search for heaven tomorrow, right? And then so there's two brothers now that keep going on to heaven and whatever else, or they're search for heaven, and then all of a sudden another one comes to like this university, and he's like the all knowing or whatever else, and he's like, I'm gonna stay here and learn at this college or whatever else, and I'll search after heaven tomorrow. So then eventually only this one brother actually shows up to heaven's gate, and he has like his dog there with him and whatever else, and pretty much the Most High says, you can come up to heaven, but you have to leave your dog here with you. And he says, well, I can't leave my dog because my dog has been faithful with me all the way through this journey and has come with me all the way here, and I just can't leave him. And eventually I think he lets the dog go up to heaven. It's one of the constellations of a dog. It's like their whole story about that this constellation, and he gets to go to heaven. But this is the same kind of a thing that, when you start to get these kinds of stories, and what they're trying to show you is that, the Most High will give you certain gifts, and, your gift can be a blessing or a curse, because the blessing can stop you from chasing after the Most High, So, and that's so true. Like, I used to be really good at basketball. Like that used to be like my thing. I didn't start playing until I was like in 8th grade. I sucked, but I was tall. But I lived at the park, and that's all that I did. So then I went like in my freshman year, I got to play some with the varsity team. Our varsity team was really good, so I ended up going like down to JV. But I played with the varsity when a lot of the varsity guys were playing football. So we did really well. I played really well, but I ended up playing and going to college and whatever else, and playing in college as well. That kept me from out of trouble. Most High used that sport to keep me from getting into gangs and getting into, illegal activities, and kept me going to school and whatever else, you know what I'm saying? So that was like how the Most High used my gift in order to keep me out of trouble. You know what I'm saying? And I'm sure a lot of you, the same thing happened. Might not have been basketball, might have been football, might have been some other hobby or something like that just keeps you out of trouble and keeps you on your pathway, and depending on how you use it. See, I went to college, and a lot of the dudes I went to college with, like, they weren't there for college. They were there to play ball, and that was it. And then everybody thought they were going to the NBA. You know what I'm saying? And then eventually, when you run out of time and everything else, what do you have to show for it? Like, I played against dudes that went to the NBA when I was in college, and I was like, okay, well, I'm nowhere near as good as these people. So I better make sure I get my degree, because, I'm not going to make it to the NBA. You see what I'm saying? So, but that was me. But a lot of people, I saw a lot of guys around me, and a lot of them did not get their degrees. You know what I'm saying? They went to school. So you've used all these years of your life, of your youth, and you've got nothing but memories, but that's it. So like I said, just kept me out of trouble, kept me on the straight and narrow, and whatever else, and taught me a lot of life lessons and things like that. So yeah, like I said, but the Most High blesses all of us with some kind of gift, and it depends on how we're going to use it. You know what I mean? I love, Jakob Israel. I love to play golf too. I used to, when Tiger Woods was big, I was all into golf. Haven't touched my clubs now for a few years. I need to actually go out again and at least putt and chip with my couple of my younger ones, and whoever else wants to go out with me and play some. But it's a lot of fun. It's to go out and golf and have a chance to kind of like contemplate a lot of things and think and stuff like that. Yep. So like I said, but those gifts can also be a gateway to keep you stagnant as well, because many of the people that have these gifts, like they live in the past. You know what I'm saying? Oh, you remember when we used to do this, and you remember when we used to do that? You remember old boy that we used to play ball with at the park all the time? Yeah, man, this happened. And it's like every weekend they're just talking about things that have happened in the past and nothing new, nothing moving ahead in the future. You see what I'm saying? You look back, what I'm saying? Like, I look back at, I appreciate that time and things like that, but you also have to have that vision of going forward. Looking back all the time will keep you stagnant, so that keeps you stagnant and keeps you just living in the past and not growing. And so that's why you gotta, like, every year, people get into their fantasy football leagues and stuff like that, and that keeps them stagnant. I crack up when people always, I just don't have time. I don't have time. Would you watch sports? Yeah. Well, instead of watching sports, you could be reading and studying, right? Yeah. Well, no. And then, tongue-tied. So I'm taking a look at some of the stuff here. Got a lot of haters in here. Impress. I agree with you there, The Voice. Look back to appreciate what you know now. Exactly. I agree. I like that one, Ancient Gardener. Stuck like Uncle Rico and Napoleon Dynamite. And like I said, it's not like I told you, this is why I love the chat. That's why I love all of you who are here. Because like I said, we all make connections, We all make connections, and that's the thing that they have not wanted, They do the same thing every year. Very true. Every day Thanksgiving, huh? Yep. And like I said, that's why, like I said, the chat is a beautiful thing, because like I said, this gives us an opportunity to come in and share and learn and be exposed to other topics, make connections with movies and make connections with books and things like that. When you understand how great of a people we are, how blessed we are, then you realize that the Most High has put everything that we need to know everywhere. So you're not going to be stuck just looking at one particular source and thinking that everything is there. You know what I'm saying? Like, that is so true, Uncle Rico. And him and his football, talking about those a couple plays, living in his van. Oh my god! Oh my gosh! Oh my goodness! People coming in here being negative. You already know the enemy has to do that. We just don't expect it. This is a true fellowship, exactly. No one can grasp it all. And see, the whole stolen heritage, stolen legacy book that I shared, I'm going to get into that one. Like I said, there's so much information. I only touched on it a little bit. But when it talked about like this one Greek dude who supposedly wrote like 50 or 60 books, and it was like deep technical information on every single subject, how that is just physically impossible. How it's just physically impossible. It's like having a PhD, like 60 or 70 PhDs. And they're like, there's no way anyone can physically do that. But those are the type of like preposterous lies that they've come up with. Oh yeah, this one person came up with, he wrote all these books on all these different, science and math topics and whatever else. And I was just, when today people get a PhD in like one subject because, it's so much information. There's no way you can get a PhD in like 60 or 70 subjects, not in one lifetime. So, but those are the kind of lies, except the Most High makes them come up with, so that eventually when we're awakened at the end, you start to realize, hold on, man, that's just not even possible to be able to get all that information. You know what I'm saying? He said it's not even possible. But they make the lies so big. The Most High has made them make the lies like so big that once you've been awakened, you just have to laugh. Like, I used to believe that shit. I used to really believe that this is, and this and that and whatever else. But then that's also a confirmation of like how the Most High said that, he was going to put like a certain nation, over us, a foolish nation over us. And then they were able to like sell us all these lies, and we were going to believe it because, we're going to have scales over our eyes. Like I said, all this information starts to make sense. And like, damn, we used to believe that. The only way we could have believed that is if the Most High, just put scales over our eyes and made us just believe whatever they said. You know what I'm saying? And that's exactly what, he's done. He did. And now taking the scales off, you can just see like, damn, man, hey, Esau, that was a good one. That was a good one. I don't know how you pulled that off, but hey, that was a good one. and the only way that we could have pulled, and that's the thing with Esau and the other nations, is that you guys thought that you guys were so smart, and that's why these lies worked. And the stuff that you said, people believed. You thought it was because you were so great. It had nothing to do with you. It had everything to do with the fact that the Most High put scales over our eyes because he was punishing us. And you thought it was because of the greatness of you. But it's actually the greatness. It just showed the power of the Most High and how, if he says something's going to happen to us, it's going to happen to us. If he says all the things in the Bible, all those prophecies had to be fulfilled. He was going to put a foolish nation over us. That had to be done. He was going to bring a nation that is going to come over here in Baruch with a totally different language, a language that we've never heard of before. And they were going to do horrible, heinous things to our young people, to our women, to the old people. All those things had to be fulfilled. Now, just because the churches have said, well, we don't know. I don't accept those books. Well, it doesn't mean anything if you don't accept them, because the books weren't about you in the first place. The books were about us. So it was about the things that we had to go through, right? So that's why prophecy doesn't work. Your breakdown of prophecy doesn't work, because the prophecies revolve around us. And so us being taken down wasn't so that you could get our books and then all of a sudden the prophecies are about you. We got taken down because we messed up. So we are the ones that allowed you pretty much to come over here and destroy us because we messed up and did not follow the Most High. Everything had to be fulfilled the way the things that had been written. So therefore, us breaking the rules, breaking the covenant, and not following, the ways that the things we're supposed to have done, that's what allowed you to come over here. It wasn't because you were great. It wasn't because of, you Gentiles were just so awesome and the Most High, wanted to let you guys come over here and do everything. No, it was because we messed up. That's it. You see what I'm saying? And the Most High now, has tried us and put us through the fire because we messed up, and now he's awakening us just like he said he would. So again, your downfall revolves around us, not around your actions. You guys haven't done anything different the whole 400, 500 years you guys have been here. You've still been the horrible people that have been raping, robbing, murdering, justifying it, ignoring it, hiding it. You're doing the same things today. So it's not like when they're like, oh, we were such a Christian nation before and we've lost our way. No, you're used to destroy us as a people. Your time of doing that is over with. So now your society's been taken down. It's not being taken down because all of a sudden you lost the vision of who the Most High was or who God is. You never had that vision in the first place. You see what I'm saying? You just thought you were being blessed because I have no idea why you guys thought, or how you guys justify that in your head. Said you were blessed because we messed up. That's why I don't get upset. Yeah, I'll bring up information, bring up things or whatever else. But ultimately, I know that you were put in your position of power because we messed up, not because you did anything to deserve that blessing. You got the blessing because it was time for us to go to the curses. It was time for us to be cursed. Okay? But now, we are now coming to our time to be blessed once again, which doesn't bode well for you. Okay? It doesn't bode well for you at all. Okay? We're going to be put back on top no matter what you do. if we're here to see it right now, well, I mean, we're already seeing it. You know what I'm saying? It's already been ordained in the spirit world that we are going to be put back on top. That's why it's ordained in the spirit world first, and then it manifests here in this environment. Okay? So it doesn't matter, because all we are is just vessels here. We're spirits in these physical bodies having an experience and being used by the Most High here. When you understand that, then you don't waste your time thinking that only thing here is just for me to enjoy everything. Everything is about me to go through life, work, go to church on Sundays, work, get to my retirement years, quit my job, retire, hopefully I have a few years of decent health where I can retire and I can enjoy life for a little bit, and then I get sick and then I die. There's much more to this than just that. But that's the lie that the society has pushed, but stay stagnant and don't learn while you're here. You see what I'm saying? There's way more than just that. Yes, they're definitely going down hard. You know what I'm saying? Like, man, I haven't watched the news. I'll listen to some of Sister Lisa Cabrera's breakdown of the news or whatever else. I'll listen to a little bit of Sister Pat's breakdown of the news. I'm not into the news right now. I said, because really, the news has nothing to do with me, or us. I said, that's just showing you the takedown of the other nations. You see what I'm saying? Well, there's definitely great stories in there that we can definitely get information from. It's just me personally, I don't have a lot of time for that, because most of it has me on a different kind of track and doing different kinds of things. Because I'm not down anybody that's doing that at all. I said, because you know what, we need to see news and we need to see stories from our point of view. You see what I'm saying? So I'm not saying anything at all about other people and what they're doing, because they're doing great work as well. Everyone's being used by the Most High. Because we see the news. What I should clarify is this: I don't look at the news from the Gentile point of view. Let me say that. I will look at news and information from our people and their breakdowns, because their breakdowns are much better, and make a much better connection to us, as long as we're getting it like from the right perspective. You know what I'm saying? You see, and that's what I should clarify. I don't watch, like, I ain't watching CNN. I'm not watching Fox. I'm not watching Sky News. I'm not watching, MSNBC. I'm not watching any of those things. I'm not watching anything about Russia, or I'm not watching anything about the Ukraine. I did that for a while, but then it's just regurgitating over and over, because nothing's happening, because those things have nothing to do with prophecy. The true prophecy is them looking at us and them looking like, oh shit, they're figuring it out. Oh shit, there's nothing we can do about it. I said, because there's no way we can stop it. You see what I'm saying? And then you'll have the sisters who are bringing out information about the news and giving their breakdowns, and except very, very entertaining. You have Brother Big Levi, who do his videos and bring in information and making connections. You know what I'm saying? Very entertaining, a lot of great information. You see what I'm saying? Yeah, it's Sky, watching the Sky, yes, but Sky News is another like news channel, like over in Europe. That's what I was referring to. But so that's what I'm saying. You see what I'm saying? Yeah, they're just playing us with the mess with the Russia and Ukraine. They're the same people. You see what I'm saying? They're the same people. Right? Your sister, the media outlets are not spiritual. Exactly. They're, again, ways to keep you stagnant. You see what I'm saying? There are ways to keep you stagnant. Then you worry about what's happening in Russia and Ukraine, and you're not studying here. You're just thinking, oh, if I just say white Jesus, I'm going to get a rapture, so it doesn't matter anyways. Their white Jesus and rapture keeps you stagnant. Another way to keep you stagnant. You see what I'm saying? Then it's like, oh, well, why study? I said white Jesus, so therefore I'm going to get raptured, so why study? You see what I'm saying? Again, another way to keep you stagnant and keep you from learning. Black climate change is causing their... Exactly. They'll tell you certain things, even with climate change. Yeah, the climate is changing. The amount of knowledge, understanding, your climate as Gentiles of being comfortable in your lives is changing. That's a true climate change. You said these words and the meanings. The climate of their society. It's not the physical. It's not the weather. It's the climate and the way that the way that their society is allowing them to feel comfortable. They were comfortable a lot. A few years ago. They were comfortable going after Colin Kaepernick because everyone, they were able to frame the whole thing, frame the whole narrative. Oh, he hates America. he hates America. He's an American, and then they got him out of the NFL by none of the people given an opportunity. You see what I'm saying? Like that's the real climate change. Now they can't do that. Now all of a sudden, the Most Highs use all these other companies to be like all supposedly woke and they're trying to be all inclusive. And when they were going through and they were getting rid of all of the statues of all these racist people, all of a sudden they don't want to be racist anymore. That's changed the climate of America. You see what I'm saying? Yep, 2019 was their last year. It was the last year of them having the climate that they wanted. And now the climate has changed. The climate has changed. It's different now. You see what I'm saying? So it's like you can take many things that you hear from them and you can totally take a different perspective of what they say. And it'll make much more sense. Changing the climate, exactly, Romney Black. Like the Most High doesn't put everything like right in your face. Sometimes you kind of have to look deeper into words and deeper into meanings. You can start getting into like other languages. If you speak other languages, you can start to other books and other information. Our information is hidden in Spanish books, Latin books, other languages, that certain people might be able to speak. All that stuff. You can read anything and everything. You can listen to all stories, and you can see our story interwoven in everything. Because the Most High makes them do that. I shared a video with the brother yesterday from TikTok who was talking about all these different cities of ours that are hidden under lakes and dams and stuff like that. So see, before you used to think they were just building these dams and making these lakes, just, I don't know, for what to conserve water for later. But they're also doing it to hide many of the things that they've done, hide the evidence of a lot of stuff that they've done. You see what I'm saying? Like it's not just that; it's other things as well. So just a beautiful thing. And like I said, they mess with numbers on channels. I've been stuck here at 480, 490 people here forever. We know there's way more people here than just that. You see what I'm saying? But other people will get millions of views if they just sit there and do something stupid. And but like I said, the numbers are that, but that's probably right because the vast majority of the world is supposed to be stagnant. You know what I'm saying? The world is supposed to be stagnant. They're not supposed to get this information. They're not supposed to get this understanding until later, when it's too late. Right? Yes, exactly. To conserve water and manufacture electricity. Exactly. But of course, they do that over our towns, and they hide our cities and they want to hide the horrible and heinous things that they've done. But they have to understand is that the Most High sees everything. And then so they're going to be like, hey, look over here in the so-called Middle East. I mean, I haven't heard anything from Ish as far as prophecy is concerned. I haven't heard about them being a light. I haven't heard them trying to teach anyone anything and trying to give clarity in these times. Nothing. You know what I'm saying? Like, if we are supposed to be so blessed by helping the chosen people, then why are we going through all the stuff that we're going through? You know what I'm saying? Yes, Satan's world is reversed. Very true. Our language of English, you have to actually read it in reverse in order, because it has a spiritual power, but you have to read the language in reverse. They wrote everything backwards. Again, we said about left to right to activate the left side of our brain. But our own language was actually right to left, which activates the right side of our brain, and the more creative side of the brain, and like the more like a cooperative side of the brain. The left side is more like competitive. So everything is a competition, you know. That's why, you know, they have us always fighting with each other and competing with each other. You know, I'm like, I'm not gonna sit here and fight and argue. I said, this whole world is ours. So there's enough for everybody. There's enough for all of our people. So therefore, why am I gonna sit here and fight over something that's already ours? Doesn't matter if it's not ours yet. It is ours. And the Most High is going to give everything back that he took from us. So I don't have to sit here and fight with my brothers and sisters and argue and whatever else about things that are already ours. You see what I'm saying? Watch it until the end. A great movie. Watch it. Exactly. Exactly. Putting out fires. Right? More than 40 acres and a mule. Exactly. Even when they talk about 40 acres and a mule, I said that wasn't even enough. It's, you know, you guys aren't, that's why they didn't even give it to us, because they already know. Like, they're not the ones that dictate what we get. That's why I'd be cracking up with the whole reparations, breakdown. Sister Lisa Cabrera did some great videos talking about the reparations and the things that they're talking about trying to give us. I'm like, keep it. You don't got to give me anything. I said, because you don't dictate what we get. You know what I'm saying? You're not going to be dictating, you know, what we get for the things that you guys have done to us. Y'all can sit there and say, we don't owe you anything. That's fine. You can say that too. What the Most High says is what all that matters. Very true, DSB. We've been a light to them even in our captivity, but they're too proud to admit it. Very true. Very true. It is the Most High that changed the climate. Star Date Jones, exactly. The Most High has changed the climate. He's the one that said, okay, your time on top is over with. Your time on top is done. I said, and it's a beautiful thing because, like I said, we haven't had this opportunity for us to come together as a people and just spend time with each other. No fighting, no arguing, just coming in, having a chance to come in, bring our talents to the table and share with each other. You know, the Most High has changed the climate. The Most High is raising up his people. We don't need millions and millions of people. You know what I'm saying? I'll take however many people the Most High gives us right here, right now, and the information that we bring. I said, like that whole story about the wolf talking about what, I didn't need Joseph. That wasn't me. You know what I'm saying? Like, to me, it's like, how many people are going to know that story? Very few. And again, that just shows you like the supernatural things that was going on with our people. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's why I love the chat and I love the people that are here. I said, because you can just, you know what? I forgot. Okay, but the story went like this. Someone here is going to know it. Oh yeah, that's this, and that's this verse, and that's in this book. You know? It's climate change. It's as easy as that. 99% of people are going to think it's talking about weather. They're going to say, oh yeah, man, these storms are really bad, and this flooding, it's all climate change. Well, yeah, but not the climate change you're talking about. The climate change is that the Most High is not allowing you to be comfortable no more. That kind of climate change. You never know who you're going to run into and who you're going to start a conversation with. You know what I'm saying? Like, I know that certain people are not as comfortable around me as they might be with someone else, like another brother who just talks about sports all the time. You know what I'm saying? Like, when they realize that you have a lot more knowledge than they do, that makes them feel very uncomfortable. It used to be like, hey, go get yourself a degree. Go fill your head up with knowledge, and then you start to go do that, and they're like, hold on, no, that's too much knowledge. You didn't get that. You didn't get that at the college. No, we didn't. You got too much information. You got too much knowledge now. You see what I'm saying? That changes the climate. Then a lot of those people who wanted to hang out with you don't want to hang out with you no more. They're like, oh no, this dude knows too much. I can't say anything around him because he's gonna twist it. Yeah, I'm gonna twist it to the truth. We're gonna twist it. Yeah, so you're not gonna. So you can only be comfortable around certain people. You don't have like the. You don't have like the. I don't have the energy or the will to be around and have conversations with people who are stagnant and don't want to learn. You know what I'm saying? I want to learn, so I have no problem. Hey, you got this information? Okay, cool. Let me hear what you have to say. You got okay. I'm never gonna be like, oh, I know everything, because I don't. Because I don't. I was getting some work done on one of my vehicles, and I had this brother who was a young brother, who was a mechanic, really good mechanic, was very knowledgeable about engines and things like that. So, he started explaining some things to me and about the engine and stuff like that. I don't know anything about car engines. I'll tell you that now. Don't know anything about any of that kind of stuff. Don't study it, don't know it, whatever else. But see, all of a sudden he started saying a couple things. It was funny because it reminds me of things that I do. How you kind of probe people. You just kind of say little things here and just kind of put it out there to kind of see what their reaction is going to be. He he was doing that to me, which was funny. I was like, oh, okay, I kind of see. So I started telling him a couple of things. He started telling me a couple of things. All of a sudden, I realized this young man has like a lot of knowledge and stuff like that. So we had a great conversation, and hopefully he's here. I kind of, I told him about my channel or whatever else. Hopefully he hears this. I said, because like I said, you never know like what people around you really know. You see what I'm saying? This young brother in his 20s knew way more than what I knew when I was in my 20s. You see what I'm saying? So you just kind of pick people's brain and kind of see like where their mind's at, just by kind of throwing a couple things out there and kind of seeing like, okay, I can have this conversation with this person, but this person, yeah, nah, it's cool. It's, but see, these are things that our people did before. This is not something that's new. See, and I have to bring this out, man. Like I said, all this information as I start having the live, I brought this book for me to take a look at, and I'm gonna have to look at it. We had masters of knowledge and understanding, and the Inquisition made it impossible for us to like set up like a church or set up a group and everybody come and get this knowledge or whatever else. Okay, so they had skills, they had jobs, okay, and these people would travel from place to place. So maybe they might have been a carpenter, might have been a mechanic, might have built these and might have built that. They had a job, okay, and they would go from place to place and they would teach people secretly. You see what I'm saying? And this is the one where I told you guys about the Inquisition, and they were looking for a certain guy, and he had like he looked like a Berber or a Moor. They call him a Moor, right? So of course he was like a brother, like one of us, and but he had like a blue glow around his head. He had like a blue glow around his head, but they could never find this guy. But he was going from place to place, and he was teaching people, and the people from the Inquisition were going around trying to capture him and kill him. I mean, eventually they came up to one dude who actually had interaction with him, and he explained to them like, oh yeah, he was like a Moor. He looked like a Moor. He had this blue like glow around his head, and this, and that. You see what I'm saying? So, but this guy, he said there was like a few hundred, a couple thousand of them, and all they would do is they would just go from city to city, town to town, taking jobs or whatever else, and then disseminating the information to people secretly. You remember the movie, I want to say, was it Kung Fu? We watched that one growing up with Carradine, right? And I think he was like a master, right? Like a Kung Fu master. And he would go around from place to place, and he would take odd jobs, and he would, help people and whatever else. So I'm sure they got those kinds of ideas from our people, who were doing those kinds of things, right? The grasshopper, take the, yep. You see, now I got all these things kind of stuck here. Okay, go up here. Sage advice, huh? To those that are more wise and knowledgeable than yourself. Very true. All the heathen cultures speak another language around us. We have the choice to code switch and talk basketball. Very true. Calavetta 2020. Very true. So, like I said, just a beautiful time together. Beautiful opportunity for us to be able to come together, and spend some time together. And like I said, that blue aura, yes. And of course, blue is like the heavenly color. So it's like I said, there's way more than just, oh, blue, that's a nice color. No, the blue is that heavenly aura. The blue is like the heavenly aura. Yellow is like here in this plane, and red is like the, lower plane, and these certain colors go with each plane. So he had a blue aura around his head. So talk about the heavenly information and understanding that he has, okay? Leave it to your own to sell you out. Yeah, very true. Anime is based on the writings of the 12 patriarchs. You know what? I'm gonna have to check out that as well, because I don't. Anime is huge. My older sons are into anime and stuff like that. So it's like, you start looking at these shows and the powers that they have and how it goes with the environment and the elements. And I said they're not getting all this information on their own. Like I said, the Most High is making them put it in these movies and in these shows, and they get popular. They get money. They make money off all this stuff, but we're going to get the knowledge and understanding, and we're going to get the power from all these things. You know what I'm saying? Yes, very true right there. Dana Marie, yes, like the king sent the 70 apostles out. It never stopped, exactly. And we're those people now. You know what I'm saying? We go out, we have interactions with people, and there's not a lot of us. Doesn't have to be, but we're going to be used in a very mighty way. Because there's always these different levels of understanding, of what's going on. Everyone else, the world is waiting for these physical manifestations of prophecy, but they're not aware of the spiritual manifestations of prophecy that are already happening every day around them. But it was great hanging out with everyone this morning. I'm going to let you guys, during this rising period right here, I'm going to let you guys go ahead and go in and have a great day. And like I said, be on the lookout, for some more information coming out. But I wanted to get an opportunity to say it was beautiful hanging out with absolutely everyone. Have an awesome day, and definitely, always be on the lookout for how the Most High can use you in every situation, that you're put in today, and every single day. So, because like I said, we're here to be used by the Most High. We're here to have experiences, and we're here to be used by the Father. Hey, we're enjoying ourselves on the way. I'm enjoying my life now every single day. When you go through the rough times and you go through the testing, it teaches you to appreciate every single day and appreciate your health when you have it, in order to be able to do the things that you were not able to do. A lot of us take for granted a lot of things, and going through rough times has taught me to not take for granted anything and to enjoy every single day to the fullest, as long as the Most High gives you a breath and strength to be able to do things. All praise is the Most High Yahweh. Acknowledgement to the earthly mother. Who is wisdom? Who is the Holy Spirit? Acknowledgement to Yahweh Shai. Shalom, family.